Hey, it's me, the Quenchies. I'm that late afternoon craving you just can't shake. Wait, what's that? Welch's Grape Aid? No! Made with real fruit and no added sugar, nothing answers the call of the Quenchies like Grape Aid. Got the Quenchies? Grab a Grape Aid in your juice aisle.
One of the rituals we have is that on a weekend morning, I take one of the kids to breakfast and my partner takes the other kid to breakfast. And they're having this alone time, this conversation, and the kids really look forward to it. So just think about how you can inject that and keep doing it through the teenage years too, when sometimes they're going to be developmentally more likely to reject you or say, I don't want to do that. Keep those things in place. They are so, so important to your children.
Welcome to Season 7 of Flusterclux with Lynn Lyons, where we'll talk about managing anxiety and all the other emotions too. We tackle the serious stuff without being too serious. I'm your co-host, Robin. I'm Lynn's sister-in-law, and I'm here to ask your questions.
And I'm Lynn Lyons. I'm an anxiety expert, speaker, mom, and author. I've been a therapist for 35 years. Parenting can be a Flusterclux, and I'm here to help you find your way. I'll tell you what to do and what to say.
Hey, Lynn.
Hey, Robin.
So this has been a month of busy travel for me, and I wanted to share a little story with you.
Okay, let's hear it.
I had a 7 a.m. flight.
Mm-hmm.
I treated myself this year so that I had a lounge access with my favorite airline.
Yeah.
So I'm in the lounge. I got my coffee. And then my husband, who is your brother, texted me that he had just put his band's music on Spotify.
Yeah.
And that was a project he had been working on this summer. So that's super exciting. We'll put the link in the show notes so that you can hear the Deerfields.
Yeah. It's great. The songs are great.
Yeah. My favorite is Ghosts That Walk These Floors, which he wrote about the pandemic. I was like, yay, congrats. You posted your music. And then I went to go and get breakfast. And I'm going through the buffet and I'm getting my cut fruit. And all of a sudden, the lounge starts playing Wham's Wake Me Up Before You Go Go. And I was like, ooh, that's sort of changing the tune. It's like 6 a.m. And so I was like, that's kind of weird music for them to be playing in here. I'm like getting my plate and I'm kind of like moving around.
Wake me up.
Right.
Yeah. You're just like,
yeah. I'm like grooving through my buffet.
Yeah. Old lady dancing.
Old lady dancing. And then I realized that the blast of music is coming from my ass. In my back pocket is my phone that had played strangely on Spotify and started playing this Wham. So all that music is coming from me.
You were providing the music.
Like the whole song.
And everybody else was just sort of not making eye contact.
Correct.
Everybody's just sort of looking down like, mm-hmm. Yeah. And they're thinking like, okay, at what point do we say something?
No, everybody was so tired, right? Everyone woke up at 4 or 5 to be there. It was a little embarrassing, but you know what? It's like, I'm just going to own this peppy injection of energy. And I turned it off and walked back and ate my cut up melon. What else are you going to do?
Like you absolutely meant to do it.
That's right. You're
like
welcome, everybody.
Yeah, you're welcome. Get a little go-go in your morning here. Let's go. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Embarrassing moments.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll put a link in the show notes so that you can hear the band's music. It's really good.
Okay. So my husband had a little bit of an embarrassing moment. I was doing a gig and oftentimes if I go do a gig and he brings me, then he goes off and explores and hikes. So I've been doing a lot of stuff. So he was off somewhere and he was hiking and he saw this couple. He said they looked like they were about in their 70s. They're hiking around at the top of this mountain. And then he was poking around looking at stuff. And then he came around the corner and the woman was peeing. Like she had her pants down and was peeing, which we do all the time in the woods.
As hikers.
But he came across her and then he didn't know what to do. And he didn't want her to know that he was there. He wasn't thinking clearly, obviously, but he was so embarrassed that he bushwhacked. He didn't even go back on the trail. He couldn't bear that she would know that he was up there. So he just hiked down like through the woods because he was so embarrassed that she would somehow know that he saw her peeing. And it was really, he said also, like, I really didn't want to see her peeing. But he was so,
right.
He was so mortified that he saw her peeing and she never even knew.
That's good. I don't know like how you could keep going and not scare the living daylights out of someone in that position either.
No, you couldn't. I've peed a lot in the woods. Yesterday, I peed in the woods. And you really just hope that nobody comes by. And I go way off. It was weird. I guess she was peeing in a place that maybe was a little bit more or a little less hidden than I would have chose, perhaps. So 2 very different embarrassing travel stories. You being in a airport lounge and my husband being at the top of a mountain. But you know what? This is being a human. We embarrass ourselves all the time.
Lynn and I have very different travel lives and enjoy the juxtaposition a lot.
Very different travel lives. Yes.
What are we talking about today?
We are talking about the importance of family rituals and routines. And you know that I'm a big fan of flexibility, of course. So this isn't about getting things locked in, but I have referenced in the past this research that was in contrast to the adverse childhood experience research, which is the ACE scores, which some people may be familiar with.
We did an episode on that. The power of your child's psychological immune system. It was at the beginning of one of the seasons, maybe 2 seasons ago.
I feel like it wasn't a recent episode, but it's there. Yes. What we really talked about was, in contrast to the adverse childhood experiences, the positive childhood experience research that is really important, because we hear so much about how trauma impacts kids and how a lot of kids really struggle. And the ACE research really changed the way that we looked at trauma in the field. So it was very helpful. But then another group, another bunch of researchers said, hey, how about if we also put a spotlight on some of the positive childhood experiences that actually buoy kids up, that more than mitigate these adverse childhood experiences, that actually help kids flourish as they move into adulthood. We talked about those in general, and I just want to highlight again one of them in particular, because I've had a lot of experiences recently talking to families and in my clinical work at the start of the school year in the fall, and we're moving into the holidays. We'll be here before we know it. So I just think it's important for me to emphasize one of these important childhood experiences that I think families need to pay attention to. When we think about community traditions and family traditions, and it's the fall, and so we've got school starting up, and also the fall leads into the winter, which means we're getting into a lot of the holidays. We've got Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas, but even more so than these big sort of notable family traditions or notable family celebrations, I really want to talk about how it is that our regular old family life is so tied to this sense of belonging, this sense of tradition, this sense of ritual, and how it really helps kids with moving through the day and feeling connected to their family. The reason I want to bring this up is because I've had a lot of conversations recently in my clinical practice and dealing with schools in which I think we're losing track of that a little bit. And I'd just like to reiterate the importance of it.
Okay, let's take a break and we'll start this conversation. You know, Lynn, I love fall, Halloween and leaf peeping, but the fall is actually your and my busiest travel season.
It is.
And can I tell you why I'm so obsessed with Liquid IV?
Go ahead.
Okay, it was actually you and your passion for Liquid IV. And I cannot tell you how much I love having a cold bottle of water with Liquid IV on my flights. Now it is my ritual.
Yeah, I have a hard time just pounding water. So even when I'm on a plane and they come by and say, what can I get you to drink? I'm like, oh, I know I should drink water. But if I've got Liquid IV, I'm really going to drink it. I keep a container of it in my refrigerator all the time. I do a ton of hiking, and having that there to drink and rehydrate has been so easy for me to do something that I know is so good for me.
Well, their new hydration multiplier and immune support comes in mango passion fruit, which is my favorite flavor. And with 5 times the daily value of vitamin C and 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink, you give your body and the immune system the support it needs while you are feeling like you're on your way to the tropics.
And Liquid IV is always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. So tear, pour, live more. One stick plus 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. Support everyday wellness with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use the code FLUSTER at checkout.
That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code FLUSTER at liquidiv.com.
Hey, have you heard of HelloFresh? It's a meal subscription service where you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients, seasonal recipes delivered right to your door. Skip trips to the grocery store. Count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. It's why it's America's #1 meal kit.
HelloFresh delivers all those pre-portioned ingredients you need to make an easy homemade meal. All the proteins, veggies, sauces, spices, and more arrive in your box, along with simple instructions that walk you through each step in the cooking process. They have great pictures, and even kids can follow them and cook dinner.
You might like the fit and wholesome, or quick and easy, or vegetarian. You'll always find something that works for you and that your family will love from HelloFresh.
We've been HelloFresh customers, I think, for 8 months now.
Wow.
It works perfectly for us. It has turned my whole family into chefs for dinner so that it's not all on me. Thank you, HelloFresh.
Get 10 free meals at hellofresh.com/free Flusterclux. Applied across 7 boxes, new subscribers only, varies by plan. That's 10 free HelloFresh meals just by going to hellofresh.com/free Flusterclux.
It's America's #1 meal kit for a reason.
Being an adult definitely has its advantages, right? I mean, you can stay up late. You don't need a bedtime, but there's also things you have to do as an adult that aren't so much fun, like finishing your taxes and, making doctor's appointments. That is one of the things that makes adult life not all that interesting. However, ZocDoc is a free app and a website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment. We're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, eye care to skin care, and much more. You can filter for doctors who take your insurance, the ones that are located nearby. They're highly rated by verified patients. You can see their actual appointment openings. You can choose a time that works for you. Now, doesn't that make being an adult just a little bit easier? Plus, ZocDoc appointments happen fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking, and you can even score same-day appointments. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/fluster to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/fluster. ZocDoc.com/fluster. Okay, we're back.
I love the fact that the family that I married into that you are a part of, there are rituals like around 4th of July, or we have those types of things. But one of the smaller rituals that I recognized during the pandemic, when everyone was still remote and we hadn't really left our houses much, our kids' school district did a lovely thing where they sponsored a family trivia night contest. Not about competition, of course, but this idea that your family is a team. It's anchoring, it's roots that like, this is my family and this is who we are. It's a very positive energy.
You're exactly right about that. And what it also does is it gives families something to look forward to. When we're developing these rituals with families, and say you're going through your week and you've got all the mundane things that you need to do, when we put in these small, routine family rituals, it's just a way of connecting people and grounding people and giving them a way to look forward to something. I'll give you just a very simple example that doesn't even have to do with a family, but I thought was so lovely, is that I have a client who's gone away to college and is working on making friends and connecting with people. And he and this group of friends that he's made have decided to have a Friday night movie night where they are watching a movie together in a small group. And it's, I guess, a movie series or a type of movie that they enjoy. And when I talk to him and I say, what do you have to look forward to? He says, well, we have our Friday night movie night. So it's that kind of idea of these are the things that we do to bond us and to connect us.
Yeah, when you say that, I mean, I think that's the crux of it. When you say, like, we have a Friday night movie night, what we're saying is we belong.
Yeah, we belong and we have a connection and we have an expectation of each other that we're going to show up because this is this thing that we do. And so one of the things that I have noticed and one of the things that I talk clinically about is when our lives get so busy and everybody's going in different directions and you've got all these sports practices or homework or people have busy jobs, very simply, a way to start with this is to really pay attention to the ritual of having meals together, the ritual of having family dinner.
And family dinner without screens.
Yes. So when I say family dinner, it doesn't mean sitting in front of the TV, or I guess, do families sit that's funny. I'm so old. Like TV dinners. We're going to get our Swanson TV dinner and sit in front of
our Salisbury steak.
Yeah, our Salisbury steak, and we're going to watch the Brady Bunch. No, I'm talking about sitting at the dinner table with no devices, with no screens. So if you have your phone sitting with you at the dinner table and you say, oh, I'm not looking at my phone, you're still getting notifications. So having family dinner in a way in which you are sitting and having conversations. And you may have some rituals around family dinner, like maybe one night the kids make the dinner, or one night a month the kids plan the menu and it's kids' dinner. We used to have this thing when my boys were little called candlelight supper. And it was a way to calm everybody down, really, a way to sort of take it down. And it felt special. I know my sister used to light candles for dinner all the time when her kids were little because it changed the tone and it made it feel a little different and a little special. I can tell you that I have families that I talk to where they never have dinner together. And it's sort of everybody's on their own for dinner. I have families where the parents will sit down and have dinner, but there's no requirement that the kids even join them. And so the kids are upstairs by themselves in their rooms. Maybe they're on their devices and no dinner is prepared for the kids. So they come down, they pull out frozen pizzas. I mean, don't get me started on they're eating crap food. If you give a 13-year-old the ability to be in charge of their own dinner, they're not going to make themselves a salad with broccoli and some chicken. But when we say to kids, we are not gathering, we don't have a ritual, we don't have a tradition, we don't have something to look forward to, we don't have a way to connect, it just increases our disconnection and our separateness. And by the way, kids don't like this. When kids say to me, no, we don't have dinner together. And I say, what do you mean you don't have dinner together? Everybody just gets what they want. I go, well, what do you have for dinner for some nights? Well, some nights I just pop some popcorn. Well, what do your parents do? And they say, I don't know. That is a problem. Feeling that sense of belonging and tradition and connection is really important. And this research shows that. And I think through our own anecdotal experience, we can know that as parents also.
There are listeners of this show where the families don't have dinner together. So let's talk about that and be their therapist for a moment. There are reasons they don't have dinner together, and there are costs from them not having dinner together.
And so one of the reasons that families don't have dinners together is because everybody buys into the we're too busy and this is somewhere where we can cut corners in terms of time. Everybody's got stuff going on. We're all really busy. How can we get through all of the things that we have to do today? Oh, I know. One of the ways to really cut down, like we don't have to prepare dinner. We don't have to organize our schedules. We don't have to clean up after dinner. That's the way that people justify this. It's just a real time saver. So if everybody just grabs something on the go, that just opens up time. This is not a good way to cut corners in your family because the cost of not getting together, the cost of not sitting down, the cost of not conversing is much greater than the benefit of saving time. And let me just tell you, this idea that if you don't have dinner, you're being productive with that time is also a myth. If you don't have dinner together, what are you doing during that time? Well, maybe you're bringing your child to a sports practice or something, but oftentimes the kids are just on their own and they're very often on their devices. It's not like somebody's making a quilt while you're not having dinner. They're not volunteering while you're not having dinner together. People are in their own rooms in their houses, their own spaces in their houses. So one of the reasons that you don't have dinner together is because you think that the time that you spend can be used in other productive ways. I don't really find that that's the case. The other reason people don't have dinner together is because they don't know how to converse. They don't know how to talk. They don't want to have conversations with kids. They don't want to dive into difficult topics, or they don't also just know how to enjoy each other.
You say this is about kids, but don't you think this is also about the partners?
Oh, I think it's totally about the partners.
So that's the other thing too. Like, what if you're like, I don't really like sitting down at the dinner table with my partner. That's not really the way I want to close my day in a relaxing way. So what if you don't really like your partner, but you're there raising kids together and you have to do it for the kids? What do you say to those couples?
Well, doing it for the kids is valid. So sometimes people say, well, we shouldn't just do it for the sake of the kids. Yes, you should. And maybe what you have to recognize is that we're going to sit down together for dinner and we are going to focus on asking the kids questions. We're going to focus on saying, hey, what was that unexpected thing that happened to you today and how did you handle it? Tell us about your day. One of the reasons that parents don't sit down together to have dinner with their families is because it becomes a place of conflict. So people bring things up. They argue about things. There may be food issues that people don't want to address. You've got a picky eater that pisses off one parent and the other parent gets blamed. These are things that the parents have to address together. But I'm saying really, truly, and for those of you who have younger kids, you know, my husband says this to me all the time. You should just focus on little kids because by the time the kids turn into teenagers, there's nothing you can do, which I think is not entirely true, but he has a point. So if you're listening to this and you have younger children and you've already started this pattern of not getting together for dinner or letting your kids eat on their own or you not sitting down with your kids. I mean, one of the things I see happening frequently also is usually the mom truly prepares dinner for the kids. They have their dinner, then they go off, and then the adults sit down and have a separate dinner. Now, is that a terrible thing? Not really, because that means that the couple enjoys sitting down and they have some time together separate from their kids. But I think it's really important, at least a few days a week, if that's your pattern, that you are sitting down with your children and modeling conversation for them. Because when you are sitting down with your partner, when you're sitting down with your spouse and having this nice conversation at the dinner table, enjoying each other's company, and you're not including your kids in that, your kids are missing the opportunity of seeing how this works.
You have made a comment in the podcast in the past that when you saw screens being introduced to minivans, which also shows how long you've been in practice.
Yes, 35 years, but who's counting? We're doomed. That's what I said to myself. We're doomed.
Yeah. You know, I wasn't a parent when that happened, so I wasn't having that same reaction. For me, since I'm a travel advisor for families and I'm at Disney all the time, when you go to like the character breakfast with Winnie the Pooh and your 3 and 4-year-olds have their little screens at Disney World when Winnie the Pooh and Piglet are circling the tables. And I just think like that's sad that you can't even carry on a conversation at a buffet restaurant with Disney characters walking around. Where is the family culture of the meal happening now? But I finally now realize it's because they don't have dinner at home together either. Having a meal with their kids at the table with a reserved time, this is a foreign experience to this family, so they put the kids on devices. Because like everything you say, it's all about practicing these skills to practice having a family dinner, even with a baby in the high chair, even if the meal is 10 to 15 minutes, you have to build on that. I'm sure that you would say that the families who do have dinner together every night through the raising their kids, that's where so much of the social emotional skills are modeled and practiced. And it's really important stuff, right?
Yeah. Okay. So maybe people are listening and saying like dinner. Why is she focusing on dinner, dinner, dinner? Really, in the broader way, if we talk about traditions, if we talk about rituals, there can also be bedtime rituals. There can also be that you have story time. There can also be things that you do on weekends. So maybe it's that you have Saturday morning breakfast.
Right. You could have a parent who works over the overnight shift, so they're not around at dinner.
Right. It could be that on Saturday morning, one of your family traditions is that there's a place that makes really great donuts and you guys go as a family and get some donuts. It could be that there is a certain show that you watch together. It could be on Friday night, it's game night. For some people, it's around their religious observations. So on Sunday, you go to church in the morning and then you go out for lunch together, or you're going to visit relatives. It's really just giving kids the model of there are things we do together that you would describe, that we would describe as rituals or traditions in your family. Because that is the glue that holds us together. And like you say, Robin, that's the place where we practice so many of these social and emotional skills. And when we're all sort of siloed in our own little worlds and we're not coming together in this pretty predictable way, then kids don't get that opportunity. What we know is that kids need to feel connected. They love ritual. They love tradition. Think back to your childhood and the things that were happy about your childhood and hope you have a lot of them. But there are the things that you could count on, the things that you could anticipate, and the stories that you tell about your childhood. And that's kind of a good exercise for the parents listening to do, is to think about what were the traditions and the rituals that you had that really meant something to you.
I was raised by a single mom for much of my childhood. So I was like a latchkey kid of the 70s too. We did have family dinners with the grandparents and the aunts and everyone coming together. So we had a lot of those, but a lot of school nights, those were like the solo dinners. But when I would go visit my friends and spend the night with them, and they were the kind of household where my mom was divorced, but so the family of 4 would still sit around the dinner table every night. I remember being entranced by that culture. It felt different.
Yeah, it does feel different. If you begin to think big picture, and again, I started off this podcast talking about this research about positive childhood experiences, and that one of the things on the list was participation in family and community traditions and feeling that sense of belonging. That's what we're going for, is that there are things that your kids can count on about you, your steadiness, all of those emotional things we talk about, but also the things that they can look forward to.
And I didn't have nightly family dinner growing up, and I still learned my skill. So it's not an all or nothing.
Correct. Yeah.
But if you have that, I'm now realizing what a gift it is if you prioritize it.
Right. And clearly you found it valuable because it's something that you really prioritize in your own family.
Absolutely.
And then we also have these big rituals. We have Christmas, or you have what you do on Thanksgiving and the fun of decorate the tree together, or we go to this place every summer. You know, when I think about the place that we went to as kids, we went to this beach resort every summer as kids. And oh my gosh, the rituals that we had there, the expectations, the things that we knew we were going to do, it all sort of tied our family together. So there's the big things and then there's the small things. Again, you don't have to throw a parade every Saturday night. It's not like you have to go overboard and that you have to spend all this time and all this money and all this effort. Think about the big things, of course, but just think about the everyday or every week things that you can do that show your kids how to stay connected. They love it. And these are the things that kids will talk about. So one of the things that I ask families, one of the things that I want to know about families is, what do you guys do together? What are your family traditions? What are the family rituals that you have? And it's often very indicative of whether or not this family communicates, whether or not they enjoy each other, whether or not they're developing emotional literacy because they're talking about the good things and the tough things. Sometimes I've talked to parents that say that one of the rituals we have is that on a weekend morning, I take one of the kids to breakfast and my partner takes the other kid to breakfast, and then they switch. And they're having this alone time, this conversation, and the kids really look forward to it. So just think about how you can inject that. Or if you're doing it already, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, gosh, we do that, then great. Keep doing it. And keep doing it through the teenage years too, when sometimes they're going to be developmentally more likely to reject you or say, I don't want to do that. Keep those things in place. They are so, so important to your children.
I think my ritual growing up with my mom was actually driving, running errands in the car because she worked 2 jobs. There just wasn't time. We would run errands. And now it's so funny that I think about that because it was like, absolutely, we had to go to all these different places, food, dry cleaning, and then she couldn't iron and we had school uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to go pick up our school uniforms from a woman who she paid to iron them.
But that was time together and you were probably having
Yeah. And that's why I'm obsessed with the music from 1979 to 82, especially because that's the soundtrack of that ritual.
Right.
I would say also when my kids, I love that time growing up. It's also like when my mom and I would have the big sex talks or whatever, like have them in the car, like we'd have big conversations. I also love road trips for that reason. But I actively tell my kids, like, can you hand me your devices so that we can talk in this car ride? And it makes a big difference. They're very willing to talk if you show up too. But if we're distracted, they're going to be distracted as well.
Right. I mean, think about reading aloud to your kids. One of the great memories that I have of my parenting is the Harry Potter books. And a new Harry Potter book would come out. And we would read it together. So I would read it to my boys and we would read a chapter. And there was a rule that you could not read ahead because sometimes we would stop and it would be a real cliffhanger. And it was something that we would look forward to. It was just such wonderful time together. There are so many book series that are out there, Harry Potter, or I'm not up on the current kids book series, but oh my gosh, even those, what were those books that drove me crazy? Oh, the Treehouse. Did you read the Treehouse books? They were not as fun to read aloud as a Harry Potter book, but you know, the Percy Jackson series or the Warrior series, there were all these books that my kids love to read. So making that a ritual, it's really giving them something to look forward to. That's what we're really talking about. That sense of connection.
Here's a little family history.
Yeah.
So I was really into Harry Potter too, and I had the privilege of reading to your sons an excerpt from the last book. I think I had finished it the day before. And so I was reading it and this is like very dramatic. And then your oldest like puts his hand on my arm and says, I think we need to stop now and pick this up with our mom.
Oh, I know. See, I mean, and then when I read the last Harry Potter book, when we were reading it together, I was bawling and they were like, Mommy, why are you crying? And I was like, and I was crying for a gazillion reasons. I'm going to cry now. But it's these special moments of connection that you have to find. And they are part of your family's history, your family's tradition. And truly, if we're looking at it from my perspective as a clinician, these are the skills that kids need. If we're talking about emotional management, if we're talking about being able to problem solve, if we're talking about seeking out the people that you need to help you through the tough times, all of this connection, all of these traditions, all of these rituals are laying the groundwork for what becomes sometimes big, hard stuff in the future. It's worth it. It is absolutely worth it. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. How cool is that? It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. On the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs. It gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workouts, sleep, and even stress management.
All you have to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and you'll know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fat or mostly carbs. Then Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on your measurements.
You can also breathe into it before or after workouts and meals, so you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time.
Your metabolism is your body's engine, and it's how your body turns the food you eat into fuel that keeps you going. And because your metabolism is at the center of everything your body does, Optimal metabolic health translates to a bunch of benefits, including easier weight management, improved energy, better sleep.
The list goes on. It helps with tracking your cycles, the onset of menopause. You can adjust your recommendations to keep your body healthy. You can keep your energy up, and you can stave off those cravings.
So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/fluster to get 15% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/fluster for 15% off your purchase.
Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode.
Can we talk about JLo for a moment? There's just no one like her, and her skin, I mean, come on. She's been in the spotlight for nearly 30 years, and she just looks incredible. Who else looks like her after 3 decades in the spotlight? She clearly has the best skin habits, and I'd say she actually invented that glow, ageless face. Get that JLo glow for yourself now with JLo's Beauty Deluxe Kit, the one-and-done skincare solution clinically proven to tighten and lift for instant, long-lasting results. JLo believes ageless beauty has no expiration date. It's what's motivated her to create a luxurious but accessible skincare line that you can afford to use every day with products that follow you through life at any stage. The secret is JLo Beauty's easy 5-step routine, perfect for glowing skin. JLo doesn't stop and believes your skincare should work as hard as you do. So she harnessed powerhouse ingredients in transformational combinations and concentrations that work in one easy-to-flow morning-night solution. Cleanse, treat, moisturize, protect. That JLo Deluxe Kit does it all. And this 5-piece set removes impurities, makeup, pollution, and SPF. It gives your skin a smoother, visible, brighter look, and it improves the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles. And it protects against UVAs and UVBs. So my skincare routine is centered around that Blockbuster Hydrating Cream. My skin is so much more plump and dewy, and I see why 100% of the people from an 8-week clinical study who tried it had smoother skin as a result. So try JLo Beauty for 60 days, and if you're not completely satisfied, just return the bottles, even if empty, and get your money back. Want that JLo glow? Head to jlobeauty.com/Flusterclux and get a special gift of 4 free masks for listeners of Flusterclux. Head to jlobeauty.com/Flusterclux for 4 free masks and free shipping today. jlobeauty.com/Flusterclux.
At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
Okay, so now back to the show.
Lynn, this is a very interesting, relevant topic for something that I'm doing in my work right now. Because this is what I do as a travel advisor. There are families who say, oh, we want to wake up and have our morning coffee together so that we can talk around the breakfast table. So we want a big space where we can all fit. There are a lot of families who say, I need space from my siblings or my parents or their kids or the cousins. That's actually probably more the norm than the families who are like, let's put us all in one big place. And it's a very real thing. I always say to people, if you all are all together in a room, are you having fun or are you wishing that you were somewhere else? I get people to answer me honestly because it's like, let's not put you all in a big house if you don't have that practice of knowing how to be together connecting without it feeling forced.
Yeah. And some families are not going to do that. And I'm really focusing on you and your children because we know there are tons of tricky family dynamics. The bigger the family gets, the more that people expand and get extended family, the trickier it can be. I think I'd like to offer people a little bit of a challenge or just a little bit of a homework assignment. I would like you as parents, as you're listening to this, to ask your kids, what are the family traditions that they most enjoy? Or what are the things that you do as a family that they really look forward to? And then ask them, is there anything that you know that other families do or that you've seen or that you've heard about that maybe you feel like we're missing? And it might be surprising to you what your kids say. It is really not necessary that you turn your lives upside down in order to create these rituals and traditions. They can be small as long as they're consistent And as long as you bring to it a sense of joy and fun and importance, as long as you convey to your kids that this is a really important part of family life for you too, it makes a big difference. It really does. And I encourage you to think about how you're doing with this and ask your kids and ask your partner, how are you doing with this? It is that laying those social and emotional connection groundwork that they're going to take with them. Remember that positive childhood experience research was looking at the later impact on our emotional functioning. And one of the ways they measured it was the likelihood of people in adulthood getting depressed. And these things on this list were things that helped mitigate the likelihood of getting depressed as an adult. And that's worth it. That's absolutely worth it.
I think if I told you what my kids told me when I asked them that question at one point, is there something that we don't do that your friends' families do that you wish we did? Their answer was camping.
Oh.
And Lynn knows. I said, oh, too bad.
Yeah. Well, you know how much I love to be out in the outdoors. I mean, I hike all the time. I love going to the top of big remote mountains, but I also hate camping. I don't like camping.
Okay, good. I feel better.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, maybe in a tent for one night, maybe if I had to.
Another thing that I do in my job, since I plan family vacations, is that I can't not mention the fact that Walt Disney very much got this. Walt Disney said, I don't want to stand for hours and watch my children go down a slide when I could be going down a slide with them. That shifts the family experience. And he wanted to create this concept of that. How do families all enjoy something on an equal level? And I always think that that's one of the reasons why so many people have that Disney addiction, is that it's like an easy script when you go to those types of things for a family to experience something together who don't have the practice of knowing how to do that at home.
Going on a vacation is a really good way to connect and have those experiences. I would want you to bring it into your everyday life in a way that's much more consistent. Like I was saying, we went to our family vacation every summer, and it was so full of tradition and ritual and all that kind of stuff. So there's that big stuff, but focus on the ways on a week-to-week basis that you are creating these memorable family rituals, like you going and running errands with your mom and me reading Harry Potter with my boys.
Work hard to create the life you don't need a vacation from.
Yes, well, isn't that interesting? Or little vacations too, right? What's a vacation from your life that doesn't require taking a week off from work? How do you get out of your routine in a way that's kind of an interesting, fun ritual?
Right.
Yeah.
Kitchen dance parties are free.
Kitchen dance parties. Yeah.
But they're really hard for some people.
They really are. Yeah. Do the things that feel a little uncomfortable and feel a little hard, and ask your kids. Maybe they'll say camping. Maybe they'll say dance party. Robin's going to hope they say dance party.
You're going to hope your kids say that too.
I am. They would never say dance party. When I start dancing, if I said, hey, how could I torture you? They would be like, go ahead, dance. I've been thrown under the dancing bus in a way that I think is unfair. I'm just saying. Thanks for listening. And if you found this podcast helpful, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It helps other people find this information.
And if you'd like to dig deeper on any of these topics, we have specialized playlists on our Spotify profile, and the link is in the show notes. Topics like teens, depression, and OCD. Bye, Lynn.
Bye, Robin.
Are you a parent in need of a laugh and a little escape? Look no further. Parenting is a Joke is the podcast you've been waiting for. Hey, I'm Ophira Eisenberg. I'm a stand-up comic and parent. And each week I chat with one of my top comedian pals who, just like you, are juggling careers, busy lives and schedules, and raising a family. You can expect candid stories, hilarious mishaps that happen on stage and at home, and just a lot of laughs. There's no expert advice here. Well, actually, sometimes a good idea does sneak its way in, but mostly just pure, relatable fun to remind you that we're all in this parenting adventure together. New episodes of Parenting is a Joke drop every Tuesday, so tune in, get ready to laugh, unwind, and maybe even feel a little bit better about your own parenting. Because sometimes that's exactly what your therapist, pediatrician, and bartender ordered. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast platform.